What would you do if a dog suddenly sprinted onto the runway and refused to let your plane take off? No commands could stop it. No alarms could explain it. But what it sensed beneath the cargo hold was enough to freeze an entire airport and uncover a secret so dangerous it could shake the nation. This isn't just a delay, it's a warning only one dog could deliver. Are you ready to find out what she smelled? If you are new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking the video. Now let's move to this wonderful story. The early morning sun stretched over Windermere Airport, painting the tarmac in gold. People moved through the terminal with tired eyes and travel bags dragging behind them. Flight 923, a long-distance trip to Dalmore City, was set to leave in 30 minutes. Everything was normal. Everything was quiet, until a dog ran onto the runway. Nathan Hale, a K-9 officer with 10 years of service, dropped his coffee the moment he saw his partner sprint. The golden retriever named Ember dashed past the control gate and leapt over the security line like a blur of fur and instinct. 1 second she was at his side, and the next she was standing still in front of a massive silver aircraft. Her body was tense, her eyes locked on the belly of the plane. "Ember!" Nathan called out, his voice sharp with confusion. But Ember didn't move. The pilot of Flight 923, Captain Roland Dries, looked out from the cockpit window and squinted. A dog. Standing still, right on the path of takeoff. The engines whined softly as systems powered up, but the plane didn't move. The tower had halted the process. On the second floor of the terminal, Mira Ellen, a freelance journalist with a habit of chasing strange stories, noticed the pause. She leaned toward the glass, spotting the golden shape on the runway. Her instincts stirred. Something was wrong. Radio voices scrambled. "There's a dog on the runway. Why isn't it moving? Who let the K-9 loose?" Nathan didn't answer any of them. He walked forward slowly, his boots tapping against the concrete, his eyes never leaving Ember. He had trained with her for years. She was smart, loyal, focused. She never broke command. But now she wasn't responding at all. She stood frozen, facing the cargo hold of Flight 923. Nathan stopped just a few feet from her. Sweat rolled down his neck despite the morning chill. He knelt beside her, gently placing his hand on her head. "What did you find, girl?" he whispered. Ember didn't bark, didn't growl. She just stared, her muscles locked in place like a statue. Nathan's heart pounded harder. He remembered another day, 3 years ago, in a forest soaked with rain. They were chasing a fugitive through thick brush. Ember had stopped suddenly, refusing to go forward. Confused, Nathan nearly stepped ahead until he saw the buried wire. A landmine. If not for her, he wouldn't be alive. She had saved him with silence once before. Around them now, the airport buzzed with pressure. Emergency vehicles rolled forward, lights flashing. Technicians shouted from a distance. Passengers stared through windows. Time was ticking, and everyone wanted answers. "Officer Hale," came the voice of Supervisor Jessica Ranley through the intercom. "You need to remove your dog now. We are holding up 217 passengers." Nathan looked toward the terminal and saw Jessica walking fast, her expression tight. She was the kind of leader who always followed the rules, but this wasn't about rules anymore. "She won't move," Nathan said calmly. "Make her," Jessica snapped. Nathan shook his head. "I won't. Not if she's warning us." The moment stretched long and thin, the sound of humming engines, soft wind, the beep of a backup vehicle. But Ember still didn't move. Her eyes locked on one spot beneath the plane, as if she could see through the metal. Captain Dries stepped out of the cockpit and stood near the open door of the plane. He glanced down the stairs, watching the scene unfold below. 25 years of flying," he said under his breath. "Never seen a dog stop a jet." In seat 14C, Mira pulled out her small notebook. She had covered war zones, political storms, and human rights investigations. But something in her gut whispered that this wasn't just a delay. It was a signal. And it wasn't coming from people. It was coming from the dog. Back on the ground, Jessica's voice turned hard. "This is a breach of protocol. Officer Hale, step away from the runway now or face suspension." Nathan didn't move. "You can suspend me, fire me, But until I know why Ember is doing this, that plane isn't going anywhere. Mira scribbled down those words. They sounded like the beginning of something bigger. A security guard stepped forward, reaching for Ember's collar, but the dog let out a low, sharp growl, not out of anger but warning. The man backed off quickly. Nathan stood up and looked at the plane. "We need to scan the cargo again." "It was scanned this morning," Jessica said. "Scan it again," Nathan replied. This time with eyes and hands, not just machines. There was a pause. Then reluctantly, Jessica gave the order. Technicians walked toward the plane. One opened a side panel to access the cargo area. Others began unloading sealed boxes. Nothing seemed unusual. Labels matched. Weight matched. Everything looked legal. But Ember didn't relax. "Keep going," Nathan said, watching closely. Then came a box that didn't appear on the manifest. No tag, no barcode, no shipping slip. Nathan pointed. "That one." The technician placed it on the ground and slowly opened it. The air grew still. Inside, wrapped in foam, was a sleek metal object. Silent. Smooth. No markings. No clear purpose. Yet Ember's gaze had never left it. Jessica frowned. "What is that?" "I don't know," the technician whispered. "But this wasn't supposed to be on the flight." Mira's hand trembled slightly as she lifted her camera. Click. A picture of a golden retriever who refused to move. Click. A mysterious container, now surrounded by guards. Click. Nathan, standing in defiance, because he believed in his partner. As sirens echoed in the distance and officers closed in on the unexpected cargo, one thing was now clear. This wasn't just a delay. This was the beginning of a story no one was ready to hear, and the only reason it was still unfolding was a dog that froze the sky. The silver box sat on the cold tarmac, untouched, as a circle of officers formed around it. The tag was missing. No company name, no shipping number, nothing at all. Only smooth steel, tightly sealed with bolts that hadn't been used in any standard airline cargo. Nathan Hale kept Ember close, her leash wrapped tightly around his wrist. But she didn't pull. She didn't move. She simply stood with her head low and eyes locked on that box like it was more than metal, like it was alive. "This isn't listed anywhere," said Sarah Bine, the airport's senior cargo technician, crouching next to the container. She wore a bright orange vest and had a scanner clipped to her belt. Her fingers tapped the device, trying every known code. Nothing came up. "Try manual override," Nathan said quietly. Sarah nodded. She ran her fingers along the bolts, her eyes narrowed. "These aren't airline issue. These were custom sealed." Supervisor Jessica Ranley stood nearby, arms folded, her frustration buried under a mask of protocol. "This could be a packing error," she said. "Someone may have missed an entry." Nathan shook his head. "Ember doesn't react to paperwork mistakes." Captain Roland Dries had come down from the plane and now stood beside them. "If that box wasn't logged," he said, "then it shouldn't have made it on board." A team of security officers arrived, all tense, all alert. Two carried portable scanners, while another held a long metal rod meant to test for radiation or explosive signals. They circled the container and scanned from every angle. "Nothing," said one of the officers. "No heat, no signal, no emission." But Ember still wouldn't move. Sarah looked at Nathan. "Can I open it?" He nodded. "If you do it, slowly." Using a specialized tool, she began turning each bolt. The sound of metal grinding against metal echoed across the runway. It took minutes, long, careful minutes, but finally, the lid gave a slight hiss and lifted. Inside, layers of protective foam lined the box, and in the middle a single object. It looked like a small console or control unit. Shiny, sleek, cold. No switches, no display, no lights. Nothing to show what it was or what it did. But it had weight. It looked heavy even though Sarah lifted it with ease. "It's light," she said, confused. "Lighter than it should be for the material it's made from." Nathan took a step forward. "Check underneath." Sarah slowly peeled back the foam layer. A thin, false bottom lifted, revealing a hidden space beneath. Everyone leaned closer. In the hidden compartment lay a second device, smaller, shaped like a rectangle, coated in black matte finish. It didn't match the first one. In fact, it didn't match anything they'd seen before. No wires, no input ports, just a smooth surface and silence. Ember growled, a low, deep sound that made two officers freeze. Sierra backed away. That's not part of the shipment. What is it? Asked Captain Dries. Sierra shook her head. I don't know. It's not tagged, not identified, not even mentioned in the manifest. Nathan glanced at Ember. Her ears were pinned back, her tail was still. Not fear, warning. Jessica stepped forward, finally worried. Lock the area down. Send a photo of the device to the Federal Security Database. An officer pulled out a satellite phone and stepped aside to contact higher command. You think this is dangerous? Jessica asked Nathan. He nodded. Ember doesn't guess. She knows. Mira Ellen watched from a few feet away, her camera hanging by her side. She had already captured the images, but now she simply stared at the object. Something about it felt wrong. Not in a way she could explain, but in a way she couldn't ignore. Suddenly, a technician who had gone silent behind them spoke up. I ran a fast serial search on the shipping code listed for the other items. They came from Oryx Dynamics. Mira looked up. Oryx Dynamics? The defense contractor? The technician nodded. They make advanced sensors and stealth gear. Captain Dries frowned. What is a defense contractor doing shipping tech on a passenger flight? Sierra sighed. It happens sometimes. They partner with logistics groups and ship small prototypes under civilian tags to avoid attention. But this one? This box doesn't fit that system. The officer returned from his call. Federal Command says no match found. They've never seen anything like it. They're dispatching a special retrieval team. Until then, no one touches it, and no one flies, Nathan added. Jessica didn't argue this time. As the group slowly backed away, a wind passed over the runway. Ember sat down, eyes never leaving the container. Quiet, alert, steady. Mira turned toward Nathan. Can I ask you something? Sure. Has she ever done this before? Stopped everything? Nathan looked at Ember, pride and worry mixing in his eyes. Twice. Once in the forest. Once during a shipment at East Coast docks. Both times someone told us it was a false alarm. Both times she was right. Mira nodded slowly. Then this time, I think you need to be louder. They might try to cover this up. Nathan exhaled. They can try, but if they come for her, they'll learn what loyalty really means. The shadows on the runway lengthened as the sun began to shift west. The plane, now empty of passengers, stood silent, and beside it, the container with no name waited. Quiet, but Ember still watched, and somewhere deep inside that box was something. The world had not yet named, but she had already sensed it. 3 days after the incident at Windermere Airport, Mira Ellen sat in her small city apartment, surrounded by open folders, news clips, and half-drunk cups of coffee. Her phone screen glowed beside her, but she hadn't touched it in hours. Her mind kept going back to one thing, the black box without a name. The box that Ember had refused to let fly. Official reports had already been released. They called it a routine delay due to technical cargo review. No mention of the dog. No mention of the missing manifest. No mention of the hidden compartment. But Mira remembered the tension in the air. The way the officers had gone quiet when the second object was found. And most of all, she remembered Ember's eyes. Calm, locked, and certain. Mira had reported from war zones before. She had faced truth and lies tangled in smoke and silence. But this time, the truth felt like it was locked behind metal and hidden beneath red tape. A soft ping broke the stillness. A new email. No name in the sender line. Only a subject that read, Freight log, Oryx 77. She opened it slowly. Attached was a single file. A list of cargo records for the past 6 months. Every entry marked with a flight code. The destinations were familiar. Seattle, Baltimore, New Orleans, all major hub cities. And then she saw it. The same serial code repeated across 5 of the flights and on all 5. The same missing manifest box. Her heart beat faster. She grabbed her phone and dialed Nathan Hale. "Nathan," she said when he picked up. "Someone is moving something through the skies, quietly, legally, and no one is checking what's inside." He didn't sound surprised. "I know. Yesterday someone tried to access Ember's training files. Someone without clearance." Mira sat up straight. "They're watching her. They're watching both of us." Nathan had felt it too. Small signs. A car that lingered near his house too long. A man who asked too many questions at the vet's office. And Ember, usually calm at home, had grown restless again. Pacing. Waiting. "We need help," Mira whispered. "We might already have it," Nathan said. "Someone slipped a drive into my mailbox. No note, no name, just a red symbol. Inside were flight records and technical specs." Specs for what? Something called adaptive cloaking sensor. No official tag, no government registry, and it matches the weight and shape of the object from the box. Mira leaned forward, staring out the window as the sky dimmed into early evening. "You think Ember smelled that?" "I think she's the only one who could." Later that night, they met at a quiet parking lot behind a closed diner. It was cold, and the air smelled of rust and oil. Nathan brought Ember, who sniffed around the empty space, then settled quietly by his feet. Mira handed him a printed copy of the logs. "Oryx. Dynamics has been using third-party carriers to fly these boxes. Always the same label, always just light enough to go unnoticed." Nathan opened the folder. "And always through airports without specialized scanning," Mira nodded. "But this time, Ember caught it. And now, they're scared." A soft voice broke the silence. "You're right. They are." A man stepped out from behind a nearby dumpster. Early 50s, long coat, face hidden under a cap. He walked slowly, hands empty. "My name is Reed Farron. I used to work on that tech." Nathan stood protectively. Ember rose beside him, tense. "I'm not here to hurt anyone," Reed said. "I helped design the early prototypes of the cloaking system. It was meant for battlefield stealth, but someone found a way to make it portable and profitable." Mira stepped closer. "Why are you telling us this?" "Because I saw the box," he said. 3 weeks ago, before it left our lab, and I told my superiors it wasn't ready. It could block scans, masks heat, even scramble radio pulses. It could be used to hide anything, drugs, weapons, tech. And you know what they told me?" "What?" "They said it wasn't my concern anymore." Nathan narrowed his eyes. "You walked away?" "No," Reed said. "I got pushed out. Security pass revoked. Contract terminated. I haven't slept properly since." He handed Nathan a second folder. "That's everything. The designs, the shipping approvals, even names of people who signed off." Mira opened it and stared. The signatures were all real. She recognized 2 of them from past defense news. "You're not supposed to have this," Reed said, "but you're the only ones who might do something with it." As he turned to leave, Ember stood and let out a low, warning sound. Reed paused. "Don't worry. They're not following me anymore. They're watching someone else now." Mira and Nathan looked at each other. They knew what that meant. After he left, Mira slid the folder into her bag. "This is too big," she said. "We can't go public yet." "Not without protection," Nathan agreed. "Not without proof." They looked down at Ember. She didn't move, didn't bark, just stared into the shadows where Reed had disappeared. Mira whispered, "We have the story no one wants told, and a dog who refuses to let it stay buried." Nathan nodded slowly. "Then we tell it anyway." A quiet fog rolled across the edge of the city as dawn broke. Inside a small conference room tucked beneath the Federal Transportation Building, 5 people sat around a plain wooden table. Files were stacked, coffee cups sat untouched, and the air was thick with tension. At the head of the table sat Nathan Hale. Beside him was Ember, sitting alert, ears forward, eyes steady. To his left was Mira Ellen, holding a notebook full of names, times, and hidden truths. Across from them sat two federal agents and a woman named Leah Ventra, a senior analyst from National Security. The projector hummed as it displayed flight maps and container codes from the past 6 months. Lines connected cities. Circles marked repeated cargo. One tag kept appearing again and again. Oryx Dynamics. This is not just one mistake, Mira said quietly. This is a pattern. Leah leaned forward. Are you saying these shipments were used to move cloaked technology across borders? Not just technology, Nathan replied. It's something that can't be scanned, can't be tracked. And if Ember hadn't smelled it, we wouldn't even know it existed. Agent Raoul, a stern man in a navy jacket, tapped his pen on the weigh table. Dogs can be trained to detect explosives, chemicals, even illness. What makes this different? Nathan looked down at Ember. Because no one trained her to find this. She felt it. And she stopped a plane because she knew something was wrong. Mira opened a folder and passed it across the table. Inside were Reed Farron's documents, internal emails, blueprints, and photos of the cloaking material. The federal agents read in silence. Leah finally spoke. You're asking us to believe that this technology has been flying beneath our radar, hidden in legal shipments protected by contracts. We're not asking, Nathan said. We're proving. Ember let out a soft sound, a low grumble that silenced the room. Agent Raoul looked at her with a new kind of respect. They continued the meeting for hours reviewing the evidence. By the end, the decision was clear. We'll escalate this, Leah said. We'll shut down the remaining shipments and begin an audit. But there's one thing I want to ask. What is it? Mira asked. Leah turned to Ember. What do we do if she's the only one who can find it? No one answered. That night, news began to spread quietly through government channels. Oryx Dynamics was placed under investigation. Several high-level executives were summoned for questioning, and a red notice was placed on any unidentified cargo matching the flagged designs. Meanwhile, Mira prepared her story. She chose her words carefully. No wild claims, no conspiracies. Only the truth, told through a dog's eyes. Her article was titled, The Dog Who Smelled Silence. The next morning it hit the front page. Within hours it was shared across the country. News anchors spoke about it. Security experts debated it. And everywhere, people asked the same question. How did one dog stop what machines couldn't in Navarro, a schoolyard in Michigan? A child read the story out loud to her class. In a hospital in Atlanta, a nurse printed it and taped it to the wall. And in a secure room in Windermere Airport, a new policy was written. Every outbound cargo flight would now include a final check, not just by machines, but by trained animals. At Naui, the center of it all was Ember. She didn't care about headlines. She didn't understand awards. She only understood the look on Nathan's face when he whispered, "You did good, girl." Weeks later, in a quiet ceremony behind closed doors, Ember was given a title that had never existed before. National Alert Sentinel. The badge wasn't made of gold. It was a simple patch sewn onto her vest. Nathan knelt beside her and smiled. They can't ignore you anymore. Mira stood beside them, camera in hand, recording the moment. What will you do now? Nathan shrugged. Keep working, keep watching, and keep listening to her. As they walked away from the building, Ember looked up at the sky. A plane passed overhead, clean and silent. But this time, there was no weight in the air. No warning in her chest. No hidden box waiting to be found. Back at the airport, a group of new canine recruits stood in a training line. One by one, they were led past a row of scent samples. Their handlers gave soft commands, their tails wagged with nervous excitement. At the end of the line stood Ember. She didn't bark, didn't growl. She simply sat beside the training unit, watching each young dog with calm eyes. Nathan whispered to Mira, "She's not just a sentinel. She's a guide now." Mira smiled. Maybe the world needs more like her. In the final scene of the story she later published, Mira wrote, "Sometimes the greatest defender is the one who doesn't speak at all. Not with words, not with noise, but with stillness. And when the world tried to move forward too fast, it was a single bark that made it stop and listen. And somewhere, deep inside a quiet room, a small patch of light fell across the floor. There sat a dog, silent, present, and remembered.